companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes
81 offices in Baton. Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. AC Gaines and Jacob Beck back there on the ones and twos. Hope your work week is off to a good start. Tigers and Northwestern State tonight. We'll get into that in 15 minutes. Glenn West covers the Tigers for Go 247. We'll chat baseball with Glenn in 30 minutes. LSU's got a football commitment. Wilson Alexander wrote a great story after chatting with Brian Kelly about LSU's quarterback situation. We'll get into that at 2 o'clock. LSU's opener against Florida State. We got a kickoff time. We'll talk about that as well. There's like 45 minutes of football in this show today. On May the 16th. It kind of hurts my soul a little bit, but we're going to do it because there's stuff to talk about. And we'll get into all that. And then Sharif Ishak at 2:30, Saints minicamp. That's a little bit of football, as well as the Pels and where they sit in terms of the draft lottery tonight. A ton to get to over the next 2 hours. Appreciate you being with us on this Tuesday. I think it's important, really in any job, to know what your strengths are and understand how you can best be utilized in this job. I think you've got to understand your strengths and understand some of your limitations as well. If you're looking for someone to break down the ins and outs of the NFL salary cap, I'm probably not your guy. I can read about it. I can interview people about it. It's not my strength. If you're looking for breakdown of the best international prospects in the upcoming NBA draft, I got to realize I'm probably not the guy to give you those picks. That's probably not what I'm going to be best at. I honestly couldn't sit here right now in this chair and tell you the difference in a bare front or an over front on the defensive line. I can do 4-3. I can do the numbers. 3-4. I can handle that. X's and O's in football, I've said it every year since I've been on here. Just, I'm not your guy for that. I can critique whether or not you should go for it on a 2-point conversion or fourth down. But some of those things that I just laid out are not what I'm best at. I've got a good handle, though, on the college baseball selection committee process. I think I'm pretty qualified to talk about where things stand as it relates to LSU every year when this time of year rolls around. I'm confident in looking at the data, looking at the numbers, understanding history, and basically forecasting what's afoot for LSU. And so I'm going to do that now, where LSU stands. If you listened to my show yesterday, you heard me say it. I hammered the panic button on LSU and the bullpen yesterday. And I realized the general mood around here is not nearly what it was 2 weeks ago. You hadn't lost a weekend yet. You were number one in the country, wire to wire. There may have been some issues, but you'd figured it out every weekend. And now the bullpen has let you down in a big way. A couple of weekends in a row, and everybody's kind of stepping back. And I'm right there with you in terms of my confidence level in this team right this second. But your feeling on what has happened doesn't matter when you just pull up the data. How we feel about this team's ability to win a national championship doesn't matter when you look at the middle of February to the middle of May, which is what we've got. And how you feel about it isn't going to matter on Memorial Day when they submit that tournament bracket. So I'm just going to give you objectively where LSU stands, and I will give you some of my thoughts on that as we take a look at it. Now, I know that this can be a little bit difficult on radio because there are numbers involved, and that's hard to deal with as you're driving your car, you're exercising, you're doing whatever you're doing, and you've got us on. Maybe you're even at work. But I will do it the best I can. with minimizing the actual numbers and just kind of give you relative situations. So LSU right now is 39-12 overall. They've won 76% of their games. There are only 5 teams in the country with better winning percentages than LSU. Wake Forest is better. Florida is better. Virginia is better. Dallas Baptist is better. And the Camels are better. But LSU is 6th in the country in winning percentage. LSU's RPI is 5. That's very strong. It's not 2 or 3 where it was, but it's 5. That's very strong. You play McNeese tonight, who's 114. Nice to win that game. And you go on the road to play Georgia, who's number 36 in the RPI. Those will be quadrant 1 games. And because Georgia's RPI is pretty good at 36 and you're on the road, you're not going to take a significant RPI hit in Athens, no matter how many games you lose. So a strong RPI at 5 and a road trip to a top 50 team that's not going to hurt your RPI too significantly. Your strength of schedule is number 14 in the country. That's very good. And this is where you start to get into some numbers, and I will try to simplify this as best I can for you. But LSU's quadrant 1 record is 16-10. You have 16 quad 1 wins to 10 losses. I will tell you, without diving into some of the other numbers, that 16-10 in quad 1 is very good. It's not as good as Wake. Wake's 17-5. They're going to be the top seed in the tournament. But you start to compare it to other teams in the SEC, which are way up there in the RPI. You're right there with all those teams at 16-10 against quad 1. Now, quad 1 is the top 50 teams in the country. Doesn't matter home, road, it's quad 1. Another metric that this committee will use is your record against the top 25. Cut quadrant 1 in half from 50 down to 25. How'd you do against the best 25 teams in the country? Well, I'll tell you, LSU's 11-6, which is very good. They have one series against number 1 RPI Kentucky, number 4 RPI Arkansas, number 11 RPI Alabama, and number 23 RPI Tennessee. LSU has won 4 series against the top 25 in the RPI. And to just put this as a little nugget for you in the back of your mind, which I don't think it matters a lot, but I'll throw it out there. LSU's 10-0 against quad 4, so not a single bad loss on the resume. Now, I've thrown all these numbers around, and every time I've told you it's very strong, very strong, very strong. Okay, here's the part that's going to make the most sense to you on radio and something that you can monitor pretty closely. I'm not asking you to go check Big West box scores. I'm not asking you to check out what goes on at the Pac-12 at 1 o'clock in the morning. Here's the Southeastern Conference might matter to LSU. Right now, Arkansas and Florida are better than LSU on paper. They've got a better record in the league. Arkansas's RPI is 1 spot ahead of LSU, and Florida's is 1 spot behind them. Those 3 schools are 4, 5, and 6. Arkansas's 4, LSU's 5, Florida is 6. But those 2 teams have done a better job in quadrant 1 than LSU. And so those teams are ahead of you. LSU and Vanderbilt are close. Kentucky is the most fascinating case in this entire field. Kentucky is 15-12 in the league. They may not even get a bye in the SEC tournament based on what happens this weekend. But their RPI is 1, and they've got 20 quad 1 wins, which is the most in college baseball. So they're in this discussion for a top 8 as well. And South Carolina is 3 in the RPI, even though they're leaking oil in a big way. You've got, right now, 6 SEC teams in the top 7 of the RPI. You start talking about top 8 seeds, 6 of them ain't coming from one league. So there's a scenario where Kentucky has a big weekend and Vanderbilt has a big weekend and South Carolina has a big weekend, and then you look around and you go, is LSU the odd man out because they just lost to Georgia? You could be. And this is all we're talking about in terms of top 8s. I will tell you this. Top 16 is going to be real tough for LSU to fall out of. I know there's some people who are nervous around here at the state of where the program is. That goes back to the feeling thing. You start to look at some teams that are on the regional host bubble. Boston College, their RPI is 14. That's 9 spots behind LSU. They're 13-13 in quad 1, so 500. And LSU is 15-10. That number's moved since I looked this morning. 16-10. 15-10. You got more wins and a better winning percentage. You look at a team like Auburn that's playing really well right now that maybe wins 3 more games this weekend. And they can try. They're on the host bubble very much. Their RPI is 20. It's 15 spots behind LSU. And they're 14-16 in quad 1. They have a losing record. That's where the host bubble is. LSU's not close to the host bubble. We are now only talking about top 8. And I've talked this in a circle and talked this in a circle and talked this in a circle with you. And basically what I've told you is you're in for a top 16. You don't have to worry about that. You're looking good for a top 8 right now based on all those metrics I laid out. Every time I gave you the RPI, I gave you the strength of schedule, I gave you the quadrant 1 record, I gave you the top 25 wins, I gave you the top 25 series wins. All those numbers look really good. But the hiccup could be the conference bunching up and you losing 3 straight series at the end and letting some teams pass you for a top 8 seed. Kentucky, South Carolina, Vanderbilt. Here's where I'll make it real simple. That was 11 minutes of kind of complex stuff to talk around. But this is simple. If LSU goes to Athens, Georgia, and wins 2 of 3, LSU will have won 8 of 10 SEC weekends. LSU will have a 17-11 record in quadrant 1. LSU will have an RPI in the top 5. That's a top 8 resume. There are variables. And we will, every single day next week, we will dive into this once again. And we'll look at what everyone's done and whose RPI backed up 6 spots and what may have happened on a given day. And it will change. So I'm not etching anything in stone. What I'm telling you is top 16, check. Top 8 looks really good. There are some issues in the league that you're going to have to run into this weekend if you don't play well. But if you win 2 out of 3 against Georgia, you will be a top 8 national seed. I say that with a high degree of confidence. It's not certainty, with confidence. Last year at this time, it looked like LSU had given it away by getting swept by Ole Miss. And then they went to Nashville and won all 3 games. And I think the prevailing thought around LSU baseball fans was, okay, they've got a host site locked up now. And I looked at the numbers, and I came on the air, and I said, I don't see it. It doesn't look to me like you are a top 16. I feel the other way, kind of going against the grain with LSU fans right now who don't feel great about the way they're playing. Doesn't change the numbers. Go out there on Thursday behind Skeens and win a game. Go out there Friday and Saturday and find another one. At that point, based on the numbers you will have already set up, I just have a hard time seeing a way that you don't get a top 8 national seed at that point. Keep in mind, everyone that I'm talking about outside of Wake Forest has had 2 bad weekends. Everyone. And so that can change the way that they may feel about their team right now. It doesn't change the numbers. Arkansas got swept by Georgia. You think that felt good? Vanderbilt may win the SEC. Doesn't change the fact that they've had some weekends that didn't look so hot. Tennessee beat the absolute brakes off of them. They lost 2 out of 3 to Alabama 5 minutes after they fired their coach. And they couldn't score. They got swept by Florida last weekend. They scored 4 runs in 3 games. LSU's not the only team that's had a couple of bad weekends. Everyone has. Florida, they look the best out of anyone on paper right now in the Southeastern Conference. It has not been perfect for Florida thus far. South Carolina took them behind the woodshed. They lost 2 out of 3 to Texas A&M, who may not make the tournament. I'm just looking at the numbers. LSU's in really good shape right now. You just got to take care of your business. If I told you entering the last SEC weekend of the year, now maybe you feel differently than I do. I'll rephrase it then. I won't speak for you. I'll speak for me. How about that? If you would have told me going into the last weekend of SEC play, before they ever picked up the ball in the middle of February, said going into the last weekend of SEC play, LSU needs to win 2 out of 3 against Georgia to get a top 8 national seed, I would have said, all right, give me the ball. That's a pretty good spot. And I'll tell you they can't get a top 8 seed if they don't win 2 out of 3. I'm telling you if they win 2 out of 3, I feel really good about it. So we're going to keep doing this. We're going to do it again on Friday after the SEC has played its Thursday night games. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, SEC tournament week, next week, we will have guests on to talk about it, and I will dive into the numbers, and we'll see where things go. But right now, I feel pretty good about where LSU is from a numbers perspective, just not so much about the bullpen where I hammered that panic button yesterday. We'll get Glenn West's thoughts on it in 15 minutes when we come back. Get you ready for LSU and Northwestern State. I've got a little bit of a lineup tweak that I'd like to see. It's McNeese State tonight. I'll get you a little bit of a lineup tweak that I'd like to see tonight, and then we'll get to Glenn West in 15 minutes on Palmer Show.
This is on Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Sure I do. I'm from the streets with a hood to swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you could run the slalom. And cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Tuesday's AFR. Can the Tigers shake out the cobwebs? We'll preview LSU McNeese and the NBA Draft Lottery. Can the Pelicans strike it rich again? Probably not. Join us, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Did all that number crunching this morning for that opening segment. Had it all written out with my RPI guide here on the screen. And I looked up in the middle of it and realized that I had one more quad one win for LSU than was on the website, which is live. So I went back in the break and looked, and all of a sudden Kansas State moved back to 51, which cost LSU a quad one win. So we need to pull for the Wildcats to get it together in this last weekend and move up into the top 50 because LSU beat them one time, obviously, back in Round Rock. Let's see, where is that? So they're a home series against TCU this weekend, so they're going to need to take 2 out of 3 in that one to move up and keep that quad one win around for LSU. Always nice when you say you can do something and then you lay it all out and your numbers are wrong because in the middle of the hour before the show, when you didn't look at the website, Kansas State moved back a point. Whatever. LSU's still in good shape. Tonight, LSU will play McNeese State, visitors from over in the Chuck. And I'd like to see a few things tonight that are based on the setting being the last midweek game of the year. You're seeing midweek Southland pitching. McNeese plays their 3-game series coming up. They have a game tomorrow on Wednesday at home. So it's a weird deal. They're getting ready for the Southland Conference Tournament next week, which they'll host. But they're about to play a bunch of games in a row here that are non-conference games, and it starts tonight. So curious to see what McNeese does with their pitching. I'd imagine you'll see a lot of guys this weekend and tonight. But for LSU, I think I would like to see Paxton Kling get some at-bats tonight. I realize that his playing time has dwindled since the injury, and he's come back, and since he's come back, he hasn't been great. He was 2 for 12. He's 2 for 12 since going down at Tulane. He struck out 3 times. He did hit the 1 home run against Bama. He looks healthy to me. He's running well. He's playing defense, and he's got a really good arm. And I'd like to see him take some swings against midweek Southland pitching tonight. Maybe he runs into one and develops some confidence, and that's a guy you can go to as a right-handed bat. A lot of the guys that you're using in the DH spot and in the outfield between Morgan and Jobert and Pearson and Beloso, a lot of these guys are left-handed. If there's a right-handed bat you might need to emerge, I'd like to see Kling do it. I think Kling's got so many tools. I would just like to see him in the lineup tonight. But I will say that Braden Jobert deserves to swing right now as well. He's 6 for his last 14, got a pair of home runs and 10 driven in over 4 games. We know how hot Braden Jobert can get. We saw him last year in Gainesville light it up. We saw him last year in Nashville light it up. We know he can be a 3-homer-a-weekend guy in the right setting. And so I'd like to keep him rolling as kind of the microwave man. So I'd like to see Jobert in there. And I wouldn't mind, honestly, Cade Beloso taking a night off. I know it's his last regular season home game. We'll be back in 2 weeks. But, and so I don't think Cade Beloso is going to play tonight. But I would like, he's 3 for his last 28. Maybe just give him a seat. And I would rest him tonight, give him a night off, and I would let Jared Jones DH. You're not playing first. You're DHing. All you need to worry about is the 5 at-bats you're getting tonight. You're facing a Southland Conference team who's not even throwing their weekend arms. Get in there, dig in, and let's see if you can't get out of this thing. This is the last chance you're going to see mediocre arms until the 4 seed shows up in 2 weeks. I guess if you got to Saturday and Sunday in the SEC tournament, some teams would be a little depleted, but this is a chance to develop some confidence, and this is the last chance. And Jared Jones is fighting it. And I know that I just told you I would sit Cade Beloso because he's fighting it. I think they're two very different people. Cade Beloso is a 24th-year senior who's seen all this, and he can dig in there and take a quality at bat at a given time. Jared Jones is swinging over the top of every breaking ball he sees, and he's overmatched by fastballs because he's looking for breaking balls, and he is mentally fighting it. Don't play first. Let Trey Morgan play first. Put Kling in the outfield, and let Jared Jones DH tonight and see if he can't run into an 88-mile-an-hour fastball and hit it over the scoreboard. Just something to break the tension with Jones. That's what I would do tonight. What do I think we're going to see tonight? The same lineup we see every single weekend. I think you're going to see Morgan in left. I think you're going to see Jones at first. I think you're going to see Beloso DHing. I think you're going to see the same old, same old. Travinski, Milazzo, whatever. I don't think Jay's going to change a thing tonight. But I would think about it because it's the last chance to get guys reps. I guess you could say that go into Hoover. If LSU sweeps Georgia this weekend and puts a national seed on ice, I guess you could treat Hoover like fall ball. And I would love that. I don't think Jay is wired that way. I think Jay wants to win every game he can win. And there's nothing wrong with that. Not necessarily how I would handle it. I wouldn't throw Paul Skeens 114 pitches in Hoover. And I don't know if Jay will or not. We have not seen him in this situation. Last year they were fighting for their life in Hoover. And they didn't have an ace. So we don't know how he's going to handle something like that. But that's my idea for tonight. Get Kling in there to start for 3 or 4 or 5 at-bats. Get Joe Bear in there to keep him in there and keep him hot. Sit Beloso's 3 for 28. And give Jared Jones a night where he doesn't have to go play defense. He doesn't have to worry about any part of that. Let him go up there and focus 100% on hitting midweek Southland pitching. And let's see if something doesn't click. Because that's what you're looking for this time of year, right? You're just looking for somebody to make something click. And they can maybe ride it. And this is your last chance. So that's what I'll be looking for tonight. McNeese is going to be anywhere, depending on the results this weekend, from 6th to 4th in the Southland Conference when they host the tournament next week. I went through this whole deal last week with Louisiana teams that if they win their conference tournament could show up here as a 4 seed. McNeese is theoretically someone that could be in that number. Your Southeasterns, your Nichols, your Northwesterns. Of course, in the SWAC, you got Southern. If one of these teams were to come through and win their tournament, they could show up here. So give it a look. But tonight, it's a get-well night, and certainly we'll see how Jay handles his pitching. You've now reached the point where, and this is part of my message yesterday, you've reached the point where tinkering is not really an option because you have to have absolutely all hands on deck for Thursday night in Athens. You have to. You can't, in good faith, throw somebody 78 pitches tonight that you think could help you in Athens. Because I think that compromises you. And keep in mind, on Sunday, you almost ran out of pitching. You had one guy left. So tonight, I think you've got to chop it up 8 ways, maximum 38 pitches for guys, and get through it with the bats. We'll see. Last midweek action of the night, LSU and McNeese. You can listen to it on our sister station, Eagle 98.1. It's a 6:30 first pitch. 6 o'clock is airtime for the pregame show over on the network. Glenn West will be there tonight. Been covering the Tigers. We'll get his thoughts on these guys. That is all coming up next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana Loyal, elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. We've got a new champion for you today, and that is Acadian Companies. Acadian Companies is grounded in its people and the culture of South Louisiana. It was founded in 1971 by a duo who recognized the need for local emergency medical support, and Acadian quickly established themselves as an early industry trailblazer. One of Acadian Company's initiatives is Hometown Heroes. It partners with local high schools to train and prepare students for a career as a licensed EMT, and it provides a career path for young people to make a difference in young people's lives. We know about Acadian. We know about the services they provide. You may not know that they're involved in high schoolers and helping people start careers in life-saving roles, and that's why they're a champion of Louisiana. If you know of a champion of Louisiana like Acadian Companies, we want to tell their story. Go to lwcc.com/champions and nominate a champion of Louisiana so that we can tell you about them right here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Acadian Companies, certainly a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana loyal.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Join me, Jimmy Ott, and Mike Delicano for the Tuesday edition of Game Time. Game Time from Doe's Eat Place on Government Street in the heart of Mid-City. It's Game Time Tuesday night, 6 to 8 p.m. right here, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, let's head on out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. That's where we find our guy Glenn West, go 247. Glenn, how are you?
I'm doing great, Hunt. How are you?
I'm good. I hammered the panic button yesterday. Are you there?
Oh yeah, I'm there. I think you and I were kind of on the same page last week when we talked, and that we weren't quite hitting that panic button. But I think that's completely changed. I mean, you can't watch those last two games this weekend and not have genuine concerns about where this team's kind of postseason path to success is. And it starts with the bullpen. I mean, there is quite literally right now not one arm that you can trust out of the bullpen, and we've got a week left in the regular season. I mean, you went through 8 arms on Sunday out of the bullpen, 5 in a 2-inning stretch where Mississippi State scored 9 consecutive runs. When LSU took that 9-run lead in the bottom of the 5th, by the end of the top of the 6th, I was like, there's no way that this lead is going to hold, and that it didn't play out. It played out exactly the way I kind of thought it might, and you just didn't find any kind of consistency out of the bullpen for the rest of the day. Yes, I know the offense didn't score runs in the last 5 innings on Sunday. I don't care. That is not the reason you lost that game or that series. And now you're in a really tough spot, kind of trying to secure that national seed here this weekend.
So I realize when a guy comes in and walks 2 guys and gives up a home run, like you don't usually talk to that guy. You usually talk to the guy that hit 3 doubles and a homer or something. But in your last 3 weeks, have you spoken to any of the LSU pitching staff, and what has their message been outwardly to the media?
Yeah, so we actually haven't spoken. We didn't speak to any of them in the final 2 games. We spoke with Paul Skeens on Friday, but it's been a good while since I think we talked to pitchers. We talked with Cade Beloso last weekend before the series. I honestly couldn't recall the last relief pitcher that maybe we've spoken to. I would imagine it was Riley Cooper. Maybe before they left for the Auburn series. I honestly can't remember, but I mean, look, it's not great right now. I mean, I think that is, just kind of the bare minimum of what you can say of how these guys have performed. But I think at some point you got to look and you got to say, like, who can you rely on to execute right now? And I don't know that there's a good answer out there for you.
So I asked this question yesterday, and I'll pose it to you. If you had to get 3 outs in a 1-run game right now, and I gave you the entire staff outside of Skeens and Floyd, who would you take?
I think I'm probably taking Gavin Guidry. I think he's shown, at least late in games to be able to get you those outs. I think he really embraces that end of game role. He's done it a couple times on the road. I would trust Gavin Guidry to get you 3 outs. But look, in a series where everybody struggled, it's quite literally, really tough to point to one guy that you feel just 100% confident in. But I would probably put Gavin Guidry right there at the top of the list.
What do you think the conversations sound like between Jay Johnson and Wes Johnson right now?
I don't know. I can only tell you from what I saw from my perspective on the game on Sunday. There was a lot of just kind of head scratching going on in the dugout. I mean, there was just a lot of arms thrown up in the air. Like, man, what can we do to get him out here? I mean, it was a really, really tough game to watch, and kind of tough to kind of, every time Jay Johnson went up to the bullpen or went up to the dugout, he had his head down. He just was not looking up or anything, and it was just kind of indicative of how that performance was going. And so I think that they are, you have what you have. And Jay said that after the game on Sunday. There's not going to be any late season additions or anything like that you can count on getting back guys that were previously injured. That's all out the window. I think you just have to go back to ground zero and really try to figure out, the thing that was most disappointing to me about this weekend is that you got a complete game from Paul Skeens on Friday. You got 6 great innings from Ty Floyd on Saturday, and it just didn't matter. It didn't really matter there in the final, 10, 11 innings of that series. And it's going to be really difficult, I think, for Johnson and for both Wes and Jay Johnson to figure out, just kind of what the strategy looks like this weekend and putting together a bullpen that works.
You think Floyd's found something?
I think so. I think, look, that fourth inning last weekend, I think you can probably point to as an aberration. But outside of that, I think he's been really good the last 3 weeks. And I think he's really locked in the off-speed pitches. He's done a nice job. I think a lot of the strikeouts he had on Saturday were on those off-speed pitches. And that's really encouraging if you're LSU to be able to have that second starter really locked in, a guy who can get you into, deep into the second game. Is going to be extremely important for this pitching staff moving forward. But I do think that Floyd has certainly grown and certainly matured, I think, on the mound here in the last month or so.
Glenn West, beat writer over at Go 24/7, joins us every Tuesday here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Offensively, you got to kind of like what you're seeing. What can you say about Tommy White's performance over the weekend?
Oh, man, Tommy, he was probably the MVP of the series. He earned a bunch of National Player of the Week awards. I know that. But, yeah, he's been flirting with 400 for a while now. He dipped right above it for a little bit on Saturday. At the end of Saturday's game, I believe he had a 401 average going in. And it's just incredible. He is seeing the ball better than probably anybody on this team outside of Dylan Cruz has seen in their entire lives. It's just incredible how consistent he's been at the plate. He comes in with timely hits. He's got well over 80 RBIs now on the season, 16, 17 homers to go along with that. He doesn't strike out a whole lot. He's been LSU's best offensive player here for a good 3 or 4 weeks now, and they've needed it because they certainly needed to score a lot of runs, as we both know.
I laid out some things in the last segment, whether it's sit or play Jared Jones tonight, whether it's sit or play Cade Beloso tonight, what you would expect to see from the pitching staff, considering they've got to travel to Athens tomorrow and play on Thursday. Anything to gain tonight, anything that you would do specifically in the last kind of tune-up game of the season?
Yeah, from an offensive perspective, I'd like to see Josh Pearson stick in the outfield. I just really like the at-bats that he gives you. He hasn't had a ton of success this year in terms of hits and runs scored and all that stuff, but he gets you deep into a pitch count. He gets on base. I think his on-base percentage is close to 400 on the season. I'd like to see that be a useful tool that LSU can use offensively. So I like him in the outfield. I think you stick with Jared Jones just from the potential alone. I just really like what he gives you there from the offensive standpoint, and maybe this midweek game is a good kind of tune-up game for him in terms of what to expect for this weekend. On the mound, I just want to see guys go out there and get zeros. I know that's as simple as you can put it, but they have a lot of guys right now that are struggling with confidence, and even getting 1 or 2 zeros out of this kind of performance or out of this game, I think can go a long way and just kind of helping rebuild some of the psyche of this pitching staff right now, because I think you and I both looking at it, it looks broken right now in terms of the bullpen and just how they're going to use these guys, and just getting those pitchers a little bit more comfortable, even a little bit more confident in themselves, I think will help LSU in the long run.
How many do they win in Athens?
I think they win 2. That's the optimist in me here talking. I think you do well with Paul Skeens on Friday, and then you just got to try to figure out one of the next 2. If that means you got to score 20 runs as an offense, then you play to that strategy and do whatever you can to make that happen. But I like them to get 2 out of 3, and I think if you get 2 out of 3, you're sitting in a really good spot for the top 8 national seed.
Thanks, Glenn. We appreciate it, man.
All right, Hunt. Talk soon. Thank you.
Glenn West to Go 24/7. Always enjoy chatting with him on Tuesdays. He'll be out at the box tonight. I will not be at the box tonight because I'll be at Plucker Sports Trivia tonight, Nicholson location, 8:30. Come on out. We'll be watching LSU and McNeese, be watching some NBA basketball, and we'll be playing some sports trivia, which is always enjoyable. You can win gift cards, delicious drinks, great food over at Pluckers on Nicholson. So grab a team and come on out tonight. Pluckers on Nicholson, 8:30 for sports trivia. We'll take a timeout, come back, and close out hour number 1 with some football. We're going to start hour 2 with football as well Wilson Alexander talking quarterback. So a lot of football coming up in the next 45 minutes. The Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. I tell you every day you can get a free consultation there. That doesn't cost you a thing. If you go to OneBathAndClosets.com and check out the website, schedule a free consultation, David Duvall and his team will show up and tell you what they can do for you. You can see all the testimonials right there on the website. You can see pictures of their great work right there on the website. And I can promise you this, if you have One Bath and Closets come out to your home to do a closet renovation remodel, to do a bathroom renovation or remodel, they're not going to show up, cut a bunch of corners, get to the next job, and take your cash. They're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. Maybe a full-scale bathroom renovation, maybe just a tub-to-shower conversion. It might be a full custom closet, totally redone. It might not. It might just be that you're not using your space efficiently, and they can come in, do a couple of things with some cubbies, some drawers, some lights, some racks, and get you squared away. You won't know unless you go for the free consultation at OneBathAndClosets.com. The website again, OneBathAndClosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $20,000 off new 22 Ram 1500 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come on, in Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down the.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded.
On Wednesdays, OTB. Did LSU manage to bounce back in the midweek? Plus, we turn our sights to Athens. Also, the latest from LSU football and the Saints, and Matt Flynn stops by for some flustering. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Wilson Alexander from The Advocate's going to join us here in 10 minutes to talk about a story he wrote on LSU's quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier, and their relationship with Brian Kelly and kind of the expectation of that position moving forward. Wilson got a chance to sit down with Brian Kelly, and I thought did an awesome job on this story. So excited to chat with Wilson coming up here in 10 minutes. But we'll do a little football cruiting to finish up hour number one as LSU gets really good news last night, the commitment of Juwan Johnson from Lafayette Christian Academy. He commits to the Tigers as a 5'11", 190-pound cornerback, nickelback, who was previously committed to Colorado and then went up to Colorado for the spring game and immediately decommitted on the spot. So I don't know what happened up there. I don't know what's going on with Dion and company. Maybe Dion told him, I don't know what Dion's doing. That's really none of my concern. Juwan Johnson, a kid from Lafayette committing to LSU, that is of my concern. And he did commit to the Tigers, 4-star, top 25 corner in the country, top 10 player in the state. He's an electric athlete, really, really good with the ball in his hands for LCA, but all the reports are that he's going to be a nickel player for LSU, which got to have those this day and age. And one of the things that I want to highlight the commitment of Juwan Johnson. That's a big deal to get him in the boat. But I think what Brian Kelly and his staff are doing in the state in this cycle is very important. And if you look up now, you see Trey'Dez Green, the number 2 player in the state, is committed to LSU. Deshaun McBride, the number 5 player in the state, committed to LSU. Kalaj Cobbins, number 6 player in the state, committed to LSU. Juwan Johnson, number 7 player in the state, committed to LSU. And none of the players in the top 10 are committed elsewhere at this point. Dominic McKinley is from Acadiana. He's a defensive lineman, good friends with Juwan Johnson. He's thought to be a heavy lean to LSU. He's a 5-star, the number 1 player in the state. That's a guy that LSU's going to have to recruit very hard and go get, but it looks good for LSU right now. Wardell Mack is a corner from John Ehret. He's the number 3 player in the state. All signs indicate LSU's doing a very good job there, and you could see a situation where LSU signs the top 10 players in the state. Now, Michael Turner's number 9. Whether or not he gets an offer as a wide receiver, we'll see. I think Ole Miss is in the mix there. Tulane looks to be in the mix as well, according to On3's folks. But you've prioritized this state in a big way. And I never bought any stock at all into the fact that Brian Kelly was going to, not be able to recruit the state or wasn't going to do the due diligence in the state. He was a national recruiter. He was going to go recruit nationally. Well, he's going to do some of that. But look at what they did in the spring evaluation period right out of the gate. It opened, and the entire staff left, and none of them left the borders. They spent 2 days seeing almost every high school in the state, and that's all they did. Now, they went out nationally after that. They're not neglecting that, but they're working in the state first, and that's huge. They got dealt a bad hand last year. They weren't going to get Tackett Curtis. They weren't going to get Arch Manning. There were some players in the state that they weren't going to get because they were late to the game. Maybe it's a quarterback situation that you weren't going to get guys. Relationships weren't there. It was just a bad hand. And so if you wanted to be a little bit lazy and a little bit narrative driven, you could go, oh, look, they brought in this Yankee from the Northeast who's been in the Midwest for 2 decades, and he came down here and 6 of the top 10 players in the state left. This guy's not a fit. You see that stupid accent he used? He's trying to fit in. Okay, that's all really dumb to say. And not many people are saying that, but you could lean on that if you wanted to. Fact of the matter is, Brian Kelly is fully aware of how important this state is to LSU's football program. There's a reason why the slogan that they've got is the state of football when they get a commitment. He's all in on that. And this class, this in-state class, while it's not the 2011 class and it may not be the 2015 class that was so star-studded, it's got some really good players in it. And to this point, nobody's come in and poached. So that's a very, very good thing. And for LSU to get the commitment of Juwan Johnson was excellent last night for the Tigers. So they continue to trudge on in Cruton world. And they're doing a pretty good job of it in this cycle. That'll do it for hour number one here on a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Opened up, I gave you about 15 minutes of where LSU sits in terms of the NCAA tournament in baseball right here on this Tuesday. My inclination is it's very good. It could be better if you can go to Athens and get a couple of wins. I gave you my whole rundown on that at the top of the show. Give you some thoughts on what I'd like to see tonight as LSU welcomes McNeese in. Then Glenn West of Go247 was with us. We chopped up some baseball as well. So all baseball for the first 45 minutes of the show, then some football here at the back end of hour number one. If you missed any of that, you want to catch it on demand, you can. 1045ESPN.com. Go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or on YouTube, where you can subscribe to two channels that we've got here. Hunt on LSU, where you'll find a segment like the Juwan Johnson segment, or Hunt on Saints, where we talk all things Saints. I want you to subscribe to those so our content heads your way when we post it. In hour number two, we got a lot of football to talk. The first 30 minutes are going to be all football. Wilson Alexander on LSU's quarterback situation, my thoughts on some stories that have been circulating around LSU football. Then we'll chat with Sharif Ishak on Saints rookie minicamp, as well as the Pels in the NBA lottery before we close things down here in hour number two. So we'll take a timeout for Sports Center. We'll come back on the Capital City's leader in sports talk. It's 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah.
You don't know what you're doing.
Sure I do. I'm from the streets where the hood can swallow on me. Bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you could run the slalom. And cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. Where personalities clash and chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like this Wall Street. I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
All right, let's say ah.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. Another NBA championship-winning coach has been dismissed. The 76ers today fired coach Doc Rivers. The team lost in the Eastern Conference semifinals in each of his 3 seasons in Philadelphia. Now the Sixers are in a situation similar to other organizations in the league, points out ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski.
You're always on the clock with players like Joel Embiid or Giannis Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee. Organizations, and I Philly included, they make a decision based on maximizing that window. And I think now for the Sixers, they're going to try somebody else. You know, there are some high-level coaches out in the marketplace. And
Woj on First Take. Among those expected to be part of the 76ers coaching search, Mike Budenholzer, Mike D'Antoni, Sam Cassell, Nick Nurse, Frank Vogel, and Monty Williams. Nuggets star Jamal Murray with a non-COVID illness, questionable for Game 1 of the West Finals tonight versus the Lakers. Coverage begins with the NBA Draft Lottery, 8 Eastern, ESPN Radio and ESPN TV. Rockets, Spurs, and Pistons tied for the best odds to win the lottery at 14% apiece.
If you need to hire, then you need Indeed. Their powerful hiring platform helps you schedule and conduct video interviews all in one place. Finding your next great hire has never been more streamlined. Get hiring at Indeed.com/credit.
Now, Hunt Palmer. Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2 here on a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. A lot of baseball in hour 1. Going to be football heavy for the first 45 minutes of hour 2. We start that with the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Our guy Wilson Alexander covers LSU football for The Advocate. He joins us now. Wilson, thanks for the time. How are you?
I'm doing well, Hunt. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Read the story earlier this morning. Garrett Nussmeier stayed, and now LSU has the breadcrumbs to reach another tier, basically dissecting LSU's quarterback position that I've talked about a fair amount over the last couple of months is to being as healthy as you really can be at this time in college football. And that was basically the premise of kind of what you dug into. So I want to take it back with your discussion to Brian Kelly to December to January when these decisions are going on. You've got Jaden Daniels coming off a really strong year with a decision to make to go to the NFL. You've got Garrett Nussmeier, who got some playing time but is number 2. And then you got Walker Howard, a very highly thought of high school recruit who spent a lot of time on the scout team. How do you think that circle, triangle, whatever you want to call it, rectangle of communication between those 3 and Brian Kelly went as we entered 2023?
There's certainly parts of it that are, haven't maybe that we don't know necessarily. But coming out of the SEC championship game, that's when LSU is doing all of its exit interviews and things like that, and just touching base with everybody because you've got those few weeks of downtime before the transfer portal opens up and before the bowl game. And, of course, at the bowl game, Brian Kelly said afterwards that he had expected to have all 3 of those quarterbacks on the roster for spring practice. That did not end up happening with Walker Howard transferring to Ole Miss. But those conversations had gone on with him and Jaden and Garrett Nussmeier and Walker too about kind of where all those 3 were at, what their futures looked like, and what their where they were heading into spring practice, especially once Jaden decided to come back for a 5th season. And with Garrett, it was very much about you're going to get first team reps in the spring, and we're going to help you get better at quarterback. And once Garrett decided, he had the opportunity to leave there in that first transfer portal window if he really wanted to, but he didn't. And once he came back, Brian Kelly told me last week that he did get about 50% of the first team reps during spring practice. Part of that was, because the offensive line where it was with just no depth on the second team, he wasn't going to get much better playing with them. But it was also that LSU, wanted to prove that it had this open mind that Brian Kelly talked about so much at the position and really helped Garrett get better at quarterback. And it seems like when he looked around, the first portal window, there wasn't, this is where he wanted to be. He's always considered himself a Louisiana guy, and he wants to be here. And so now that he stayed, they weren't necessarily sweating out the second portal window as much because it was probably more likely that he would have left in the first one if he were to leave it all. But there's still always that possibility, and just in modern college football. And so Brian Kelly said that he was pretty relieved, joked about having a party when Garrett stayed, and now they're set up so well at quarterback.
So how much of those 50-50 rep shares in the spring is for show and for babysitting purposes, to use probably a term that's a little aggressive, and how much of it is because they wanted to develop Garrett?
Yeah, I think it's maybe a little bit of both, but more heavily towards the wanting to develop him as a quarterback, with Joe Sloan over there and really working him at the position, because as good as Garrett looked in those 2 games at the end of the year, that's still a small sample size. And LSU knows that there's room for him to develop. Garrett knows there's room for himself to develop. And so this is the kind of perfect time of year to really do that stuff, and get him with the ones and work on, his read progressions and his discipline as a passer. Because as we all know with Garrett, that's just kind of that little thing that he's got to continue to work on, is balancing gunslinger and just his arm with, really crisp decision making. And so I think it was a little bit of both, but really leaning more toward, wanting to truly develop him, because LSU, needs him to be ready in case Jaden Daniels goes down this fall. And even still, it needs him to be ready, if it's not this fall, in 2024. So it's always about, development and getting these guys better so that they're ready when they do get on the field.
We've seen a lot of quotes from coaches, and even some players at times over the last year and a half about tampering in college sports. Not even just football. It's football, basketball, it's baseball, the whole deal. What do you sense the environment is like in these transfer portal windows for coaches and players?
It's wild. From what I've gathered, the conversations that I've had, there's constant sort of like fear and looking over one's shoulder to sort of see if somebody's going to leave or if another team is going to come after a star player. It's hard to figure out, sift through fact and fiction for a lot of these people. Like, okay, is this somebody throws out a number, like an NIL related number. Okay, is that really real, or is that something that somebody's just sort of making up to try to get a player to come to their school? Brian Kelly has said multiple times about tampering and how that's kind of one of his biggest concerns right now is tampering in the transfer portal. And it's kind of the biggest thing right now in college football. I think when the portal opens, just the amount of back channel stuff that's kind of going on. And a lot of it's just being sort of said off the record, and not many coaches are really coming out strongly and talking about it. Pat Narduzzi is, I think, an exception to that if people want to go find his comments. But a lot of it's just sort of finger pointing without many people really calling out and putting their name to it. But it's really certainly a fear and a concern that a lot of coaches have right now.
Pat Narduzzi not wild about his Blitnikoff winner going all the way across the country to go play for USC. He was very, very open with being on the record. We're chatting with Wilson Alexander of The Advocate. Wrote a great story that you can find over at NOLA.com about Garrett Nussmeier, Jaden Daniels, Brian Kelly, and where LSU stands at the quarterback position. What do you sense the roles are moving forward? We heard Brian Kelly say that Jaden Daniels is the number one quarterback. Do you sense there will be reps for Garrett Nussmeier in game, or is he the backup when needed and you've got a quarterback that runs a lot?
I think it's going to be a situation that's sort of game flow dependent. Brian Kelly is, of course, played quarterback. I don't see this being like a 2-quarterback system, something like we saw in the Citrus Bowl where they're really rotating quite that much. But they'd probably like to get him a little bit more playing time in a game situation where, the game's maybe a little bit in hand and have him ready in any sort of, situation. We saw at times last year, like, when Jaden get banged up and he's put on some weight to try to avoid anything like that happening again. But think back to the Auburn game. Garrett Nussmeier came in and they really needed him to help close out that fourth quarter, and there wasn't a whole lot he could do. I think if that happened again, he'd be a lot more ready to truly lead the offense, and that's why you hear Brian Kelly say so often that they feel like they have 2 championship level quarterbacks, is because of the strides that Garrett has made. Garrett's going to get some first team reps during practice. That's pretty standard for Brian Kelly. Throughout his career, former people who have been around him and worked with him have said that he used to give backups 40% of the reps and starters 60% of the reps in practice during the season. so that those backups are ready. And Brian didn't, with me, specify exactly the sort of the percentage that Garrett would get, but said that he'll continue to get first-team reps come preseason camp and regular season practice. And then again, how it shakes out in the game probably just sort of depends on the flow of the game. He'll probably have a lot more reps than he did last season, but not so much where you're really questioning a two-quarterback system.
I think one of the quotes that stands out from last year for me is when Brian Kelly said, yeah, Jaden hadn't thrown an interception yet, but maybe that's not such a good thing. How much of that development in terms of taking more shots, putting the ball, quote-unquote, in harm's way a little bit more to try to make bigger plays, do you expect to see this past spring and then, of course, moving into fall camp?
That was the main focus with him all spring. It was sort of a three-pronged approach with Jaden. One was get bigger, which he clearly did, put on about 10 pounds or so of muscle so he could take some hits as a running quarterback. Second was just continue to evolve as a leader and becoming the face of this team and this offense. And the third was that downfield passing element. And that was sort of the biggest on-field thing with him. He's done a lot of work with his personal quarterback coach over at 3D QB out in California, same place where you've seen Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. Jaden's over there as well. And he's done a lot of work with Joe Sloan here at LSU on just becoming more aggressive and and confident with it. Mike Denbrock talked about this, that anything you do offensively requires confidence, whether that's zone reads or downfield shots. And Denbrock took some responsibility for that, saying that he needed to call it more in practice so that LSU had the confidence in the game to do that. And so that's what, talking to players and other people around the program, they say that during the spring, LSU really took a lot more downfield shots. We saw it a little bit in the spring game, not very much. Of course, that was vanilla, but the thing behind closed doors that was really an emphasis, that Denbrock was calling it, and Jaden was taking them. So we'll see come actual games, how much that translates to expanding this offense.
Last one here, Wilson. We appreciate your time. I know you talked with Coach Kelly, but what is your sense from speaking with him and maybe even speaking with the quarterbacks in the past as to what the relationship between the two quarterbacks is as they move into this next season?
I think the best image to maybe summarize it is at the spring game when Garrett and Nussmeier, one of them were coming off the field and one of them was coming. They sort of met and did a big high five on the field. Every time we see them together, they're cheering each other on and they're supporting each other. And they talked about that. Jaden said that back at the bowl game. That we're really sort of sees him as his little brother. And I don't think it's just lip service based on what I've heard and just what I've seen. With the way those two interact, you're never seeing really any side eye or sort of negative emotions. They're always kind of hyping each other up and supporting each other, and it really does feel genuine. That's kind of the relationship that they have. They want to see each other succeed and get better because they know it benefits this whole team if they're both there for each other and not bringing anything down. Because if you have conflict at that position, it's going to trickle into everything else. But I don't think that LSU has that. These two teams really support each other.
You can find him on Twitter at WHAlexander_, LSU football beat writer for The Advocate and Nolan News. Great story up on LSU's quarterback situation. I suggest go check it out on his Twitter. Wilson, thanks so much for the time.
Thanks for having me, Hunt. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
You too. I appreciate it. I've got some thoughts on that interview that we just did with Wilson, the story that he wrote, and then we got a game time for LSU and Florida State, and I got some thoughts on that as well. So we'll stick with football here for the next 15 minutes until we get to Sharif Ishak. That's next.
This is on Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge. Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench anytime. Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play. with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back.
Sandigrove, join us for the Wednesday edition of Handy Time. Ross Dellinger from Sports Illustrated about the SEC meetings and more conference realignment. Scott Rabelais from The Advocate and First Class, Second Class, No Class. Handy Time, noon weekdays, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Really enjoyed that chat with Wilson Alexander. If you missed it, go catch it on demand. Wilson wrote a great story about the LSU quarterback situation. I want to add some of my thoughts on it because I do think that LSU's quarterback situation, it's not unheard of. Far from it. But it's also not common to have a quarterback like Garrett Nussmeier willing to sit basically in year 3. And it has put his willingness to do that has put LSU in as advantageous quarterback position as you can really be. Yeah, I'm sure Georgia feels really good about the fact that they've got a couple of guys who are 5-star recruits and they just tabbed the number 1 player in the nation for this incoming class as a quarterback. They can have that. I'll take what LSU's got. Because I know what LSU's got. We think it looks pretty good in Athens. And it could end up being better than what LSU's got. But really, for LSU this coming year, you've got 2 quarterbacks on your team that you feel, one you know you can win games with. Jaden Daniels you know you can win games with. And the other you feel like you've got a real shot to move the football with and score points. And then, when Jaden Daniels moves on, you're going to have an old, talented quarterback with some playing time. And usually the way to get that these days is to go to the transfer portal. It's not the guy that's been sitting on the bench for 3 years. It's the guy that's been playing for Washington or Boston College. So it's it's pretty rare. And I want to give Garrett Nussmeier just a ton of credit for the way he's handled this entire thing. And I think that there's a piece of this that is the coach's son in him that understands how teams work and understand how development works. And it's not always me. Now, there are plenty of coaches' sons that have transferred. Joe Burrow is a coach's son transferred. We get it. I'm not speaking in absolutes here. Every situation's different. People believe one thing is good for them or another is good for them. But in this specific instance, I think Garrett Nussmeier's upbringing in that type of culture and that understanding of team and development and roles, and it's not always me, when do I get to play? I think that matters a lot. I mean, look at the baseball team. Cade Beloso and Hayden Travinski's dads aren't coaches, and they view things the exact same way. And they're not scheduled to be the starting quarterback at LSU or the best player on a team. Again, every situation is different, but Garrett Nussmeier deserves a lot of credit. And it just feels really, really good at that position for LSU. And it's a fixable problem if it crops up. If you don't have a quarterback, you can probably go find one. Florida went to Wisconsin and got one. Ole Miss went to Oklahoma State and got one. Auburn just picked one up. It's a fixable problem pretty quick. But LSU doesn't have it, and that's great. And I think the politics and the emotional dynamic and what goes into having a player on your roster and then having to worry every single day of a transfer portal window whether or not they're going to leave, and have to do things a certain way in practice to ensure to the best of your ability that they don't want to leave. It's quite a balancing act. And I think LSU was in a position this spring to give half the reps away. Jaden Daniels is an old player. He's played a ton. He's been in Mike Stenbrock's system for a year. He doesn't need all the reps. Garrett Nussmeier can have 50%, 60%. Now, if you were bringing in a brand new quarterback, like Auburn just did after spring football, can't really give your second-team quarterback a lot of reps. But LSU's in a position, because of the continuity and the depth in the roster at that position, to cycle through some reps. And that's a very, very good thing. We'll talk a ton about LSU's quarterback situation as we move forward into the summer and into the fall. But we did get an announcement earlier this morning that LSU and Florida State will play in prime time on ABC in the season opener down in Orlando. It'll be a 6:30 Central start for LSU and Florida State. And it got me thinking about that game and just how big the buildup is going to be to that game and the window in which it's going to be played when it's the only game on. It's a Sunday night kickoff at 6:30 Central. All the other games were played yesterday. Probably going to have one on Labor Day. But LSU and Florida State are going to command the eyes of the nation on Sunday. And they did last year, but LSU was coming off 2 bad seasons with a new coach and a brand new quarterback. And Florida State had not been nationally relevant since Jameis Winston left. Just the fact of it. Now, both teams finished strong, and LSU won their division, and Florida State played great late, and they ended up having nice seasons. But at that point, neither program was a threat at a national title. And while LSU did win its division, when they showed up in Atlanta, they didn't really threaten Georgia too much. So that was a primetime opener in a huge spot, but the teams weren't as relevant. This time around, with these two quarterbacks and these two programs who will be preseason top 10, occupying that time slot on a Sunday with the eyes of the nation watching, this is the biggest season opener LSU will have played since 2011. For that game, LSU was number 4 in the country, coming off that great Cotton Bowl win where all the kids played incredible. Tyron and Eric Reed making plays as sophomores. Spencer Ware running all over the place. Tyron and Eric freshmen, sorry. And that's the lead into playing that opener against Oregon, who was just in the national championship game. You still had Darren Thomas, DeAnthony Thomas coming in. Like, it was a big deal. And this is the biggest one since. It wasn't going up to play Wisconsin in 2016. LSU was number 5 in the country that day, but Wisconsin was unranked. Not UCLA in the Rose Bowl. LSU was coming off the bad season with COVID, and UCLA hadn't gotten their feet under them under Chip Kelly, and it's a great scene, and it's 2 iconic uniforms, and people watched. But in terms of the time slot, the national rank of the game, the perspective on what that game could mean for both programs who are trying to announce themselves as conference and national championship contenders, this is the biggest LSU season opener in 12 years. And it's going to be a wild buildup around here. And I've done this segment a couple of times in the spring, and I'm certain it will come up again in the summer, and I'm certain it will come up again in August. But it's going to feel right around here in August. It's going to feel, there'll be a buzz. And there always is some. It'll be ratcheted up. And that feels really good. It felt great in January to talk about this upcoming baseball season. It doesn't always work out on the field. It may or may not for this baseball team. May or may not for this football team. But the buzz, which is what we feed off of in this industry and what this town kind of feeds off of at that time of year where it's hot, summer's coming to a close, vacations in the rearview mirror, and then we buckle in and it's time for some football to be the break from all that. I can't wait. I cannot wait. Now, I've said this a bunch of times. You're going to have to give me a few days, a few weeks after this baseball season ends, because that will break my heart to watch Dylan Cruz and Paul Skeens go put on a Major League Baseball hat. But once it's time to lock in, strap in, and get ready to roll for football, I'll be right there with you, because this is going to be a very, very fun lead up to a massive game. And we now have kick time, 6:30, ABC, down in Orlando, LSU and Florida State in a top 10 matchup that will have everybody really, really fired up. All right, we'll take a time out here. Sharif, Ishak, WDSU. Got a few things we want to touch on with Sharif, Pelicans, and their thoughts on the NBA draft lottery, which is tonight. Then we'll talk about the Saints rookie minicamp, and the Saints just inked one of their high draft picks to a contract. We'll talk with Sharif about that next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come home, live Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down the
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Tuesday's AFR. Can the Tigers shake out the cobwebs? We'll preview LSU McNeese and the NBA Draft Lottery. Can the Pelicans strike it rich again? Probably not. Join us, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
As you just heard Matt promo there, the NBA Draft Lottery is tonight. Sharif Ishak joins us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline from down in New Orleans. Covers the Pels for WDSU. Are the Pels getting Wembanyama?
You better believe it. It's rigged. It's always rigged.
It can't be rigged. They can't rig it.
Impossible. I mean, you know, when you have a 0.5%, it's probably not going to be rigged.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be difficult to get past a 0.5%. That's difficult. But what should the Pelicans be looking for tonight? Anything at all?
I mean, if they can get into the top 10, that would be great. But here's the thing, Hunt. This team doesn't need another rookie. I mean, they need to take that pick and combo it up with something else and go out and get a young veteran. This team they're done with like having all these first 2-3 year players on their team. They need somebody who can get them over that hump. I mean, what are you going to do with another top 14 pick? Going to ride the bench? Go play in the G League team in Birmingham? It's just like something they don't need.
What do they need?
I mean, I feel like this is a broken record. They need an athletic rim protector, and they could, it'd be great to get them another guy who could facilitate and shoot the ball from outside consistently. I mean, those are the top two things that they need on this team in a very bad way.
What sort of assets would you be willing to give up, whether it's draft picks or just actual players on the team, to go make that happen realistically?
Look, man, JV has been a soldier for this team for, the couple years he's been here, but it's just, his game would have been great in the early 2000s, late 90s. It's just that it's not his game anymore, man. You got to get an athletic bit. I'll throw him in, couple first-round picks. You got the Milwaukee swaps and picks, and you have this pick. And then you have some other fillers and guys on the team, who are on the bench who can be maybe key contributors for other teams. But I just think this team's got to use those assets, and they have to get better and have to get better now, because all you keep hearing every year is, well, this is a make-or-break year for the Pelicans. We said that 2 years in a row now, and it's just been broken. And this year was horrible.
It did not end well. There's no doubt about that. Any news on Zion before we get to Saints?
Nothing new.
Okay.
I mean, that's expected.
Yeah, well, that's just – I got to ask. It's one of those things you have to ask. All right, let's Saints rookie minicamp. Did you see anything of note out there?
Well, I mean, it was only a 35, 40-minute viewing period. It wasn't much, no pads. But look, Brian Brzee, he looks the part. The guy was moving, 300-plus pound defensive tackle, his size. It looked really good for the limited time. And you saw him working with Brian Young, the guy who played for the Saints once upon a time. He was coaching him up a lot. But, he and Isaiah Foskey look good. They look good in the black and gold uniform. But I want to see them whenever they go one-on-one with pads in training camp. But, when you get to rookie minicamp and OTAs, the thing you look for is your eyes gravitate towards the quarterbacks and the receivers. And watching Jay Kaner, footwork looked good, smooth, ball looked good coming out of his hands. I mean, it was nice to see that. I mean, he looked like a poised quarterback. But once again, 48 players are out there. He was throwing against, routes on air. So, but he looked good.
I saw that Brian Brzee signed his rookie deal. Those tend to get done a little bit more quickly now, as opposed to the holdouts that we were very accustomed to all the way through training camp as of a decade ago. So I'm curious what you think Brzee's role is immediately and what it grows into in year one.
Hey, man, I know when you look at the stats, everyone's like, oh, man. But, I mean, the tackles don't really have high sack numbers. If you can get 5 sacks out of him in his rookie year and be a guy who can clog up the run game, that's great, because he's a guy who can play a lot of techniques for that defensive line. He can move up and down the line, and he can be a guy who can make some noise. I mean, that's all you're asking. You're asking for guys who can contribute at a very minimal, at least 4 or 5 sacks, guys like him. I mean, that's what you want. You want somebody who could disrupt. And if you can disrupt and allow Cam and Carl and some of the other veterans to cook a little bit, that's exactly what you're asking for. You're not asking him to be an all-pro. I know he's a first-round pick and you want that, but that's not what you're realistically getting at 29. You're getting that type of guy who can at least disrupt for you, kind of like Sheldon Rankins did.
And you see the report coming out this morning that Cam Jordan may be closing in on an extension. His last 2 years, he's been very productive. How comfortable are you with an extension with Cam Jordan?
I'm fine with it because his production he's going to be 34 this summer. I mean, I don't know how much better he can get than he did in the 2021 season.
Yeah.
But that sack numbers were high, and then he fell off to like 8.5 this season. He'll be, it's good. He wants to retire, saying, look, the guy, he's been a good player for you. He's been a good ambassador. You reward a guy who doesn't really miss games. He'll play through injuries. I mean, look, what do you do? You just let him walk and go play for another team, or you let him retire as a Saint? I'd like to see what it looks like when it finally gets structured, but I like the move. And you got to keep a veteran who really does help out the young players all the time. And, every single player in the locker room will say how much Cam has helped you. And Isaiah Foskey said, I'm so excited to learn from Cam Jordan. He said that on the Zoom the night he got drafted, and he continued to say it Saturday after the practice.
Did you have any reaction when Mickey Loomis earlier this week said that Michael Thomas had hardware taken out of his foot?
No. I mean, once again, as expected, when it comes to any injury between the Pelicans and the Saints, I mean, look, they can get him for training camp. No one's saying he's going to be the 2019 Offensive Player of the Year, Michael Thomas, but if you can get him on the field for 12 games and he is, making some contested plays over the middle field like he's done in the past, and he's creating for the other receivers and tight ends, that's all you can ask for. No one wants him to be the 140 catches. That's not realistic. That's not what you're getting from Michael Thomas.
So, obviously, late-round draft pick, wide receiver, just signed, free agent, veteran, wide receiver. Who do you think the top 5 wide receivers are on this team in week 1?
So, we're going to go, if Mike is healthy, Michael Thomas, you'll have him out there. And then we're going to go, I'm going to go bottom. I think, I know everybody wants to hear about the receivers they already have on the team who were there last season, but I want to see what A.T. Perry does. I really do want to see whenever you invest in a system. I mean, they do sometimes hit on those late round draft picks. like A.T. Perry. I do want to see what he can do, but, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, those guys are going to be the 1, 2, 3 with Michael Thomas. Then after that, it gets a little funky. Like, what happens from there on out? Like, who are the next 2 guys, 3 guys that, are on this roster? Does Malik Flowers, does he make a difference? It worked for Rashid Shaheed as an undrafted free agent. Malik Flowers is taking the same path because he had all those same type of numbers as the kickoff returner, at Montana. So that is something you can look at as well.
And I think James Washington probably makes the team, wouldn't you imagine?
When he was healthy, he was a pretty solid player in his time whenever he was healthy for the stretch. So, I mean, look, I don't put it past anything with the Saints. If he's good enough, he's healthy enough, it doesn't hurt to have a 5th, 6th receiver like him on the team, a veteran. So, yeah, I mean, look, give him a shot. If it works out, great. Not, then you have a young core of receivers behind Michael Thomas.
All right, Sharif, thank you, sir.
Anytime, hon.
That is Sharif Ishak. WDSU will be locked in to the NBA draft lottery, but I'm kind of with him there. I think that the Pels have accumulated enough, players and assets. You got to start flipping those to where you're not taking any more 19-year-olds, not taking any more 20-year-olds that are not going to appreciably help the team. You need guys that are going to appreciably help the team. So you got to start flipping players, picks, contracts, all that, and figure out 1 or 2 more really key pieces to this team. So unless you get Wembanyama tonight, the rights to him, I think it's time to start looking into moving those assets. So we shall see. As far as the Saints go, a little bit of a quieter period at this point now for a little bit until we ramp things up with OTAs and with then finally training camp, which I feel like is going to sneak up. Like, it's a deal where hopefully LSU baseball can get us to late June. It's reasonable to suggest that could happen. And then you've got the MLB draft, which I'll be locked into for LSU baseball moving forward. A little bit of baseball transfer portal as well. And then I'm going to take a week off. We got media days. And then all of a sudden, training camps all over the place. So it may feel like Labor Day's a long way away when I'm talking about LSU and Florida State in the last segment, but then you start to think about the things that are going to unfold here over the next few weeks. It'll move pretty quick, and we'll inevitably be back in the throes of another football season here. And that's good for a lot of people around here. But I'll lock back in on baseball. Tigers and McNeese tonight, 6:30, and then, of course, LSU will take on Georgia over the weekend in Athens. All right, we'll take a timeout. We will come back and close it up. Hunt Palmer Show.
This is Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Hey, it's Matt Musso. Join me Monday through Friday for your daily update on LSU baseball with Musso at the Box, presented by New Orleans Flooring, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google, and check out New Orleans Flooring. 2 locations, Metairie and Prairieville, or NOLAFlooring.com.
Turn my music high, 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 yeah. Sure I do. I'm from the streets with a hood to swallow 'em in. bullets will follow on me. There's so much that you could run the slalom. The cops comb this top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. With personalities clashing, chrome meets chrome. Prices up and down like it's Wall Street.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Me, Jimmy Ott, and Mike Delicano for the Tuesday edition of Game Time. Game Time from Doe's Eat Place on Government Street in the heart of Mid-City. It's Game Time Tuesday night, 6 to 8 p.m. right here, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There's a fascinating story unfolding in the NFL this offseason that can't wait for the conclusion of. And that's Joe Burrow's contract extension, which will be worked out before they report to camp, I would think. And Joe talked about it with the media earlier today. And the quotes are interesting. Because I think Joe Burrow's contract is going to look very different than certainly Deshaun Watson's, then Lamar Jackson's, then Justin Herbert's, then Josh Allen's, then Patrick Mahomes. I really think it's going to look different. What did I say at the top of this radio show? Most of you probably weren't listening, but I said I'm not your guy for salary cap stuff in the NFL. I can read about it and relay that to you, the listener. I can't really I'm not a finance guy. I'm not a salary cap guy. Like, that's one of the things in sports that I just have to read and react to. But when you see quotes like this, you realize that Joe ticks differently than most humans. And so Joe's quote when talking about his contract was, whenever you have guys on the team that need to be paid, that's always on your mind. You want that to be a focal point, and we're working to make that happen. I can tell you, with no inside information, but just a broad understanding of how the world works, that's not always on most players' mind, and certainly is not a focal point. When Bill the edge rusher is looking and signing free agency, I don't think necessarily he's as concerned with what the other guys on the roster are going to make. When Sam, the left tackle, is negotiating a free agent contract, I don't think he's thinking, man, I gotta get our corners paid, and we gotta get a running back too. So I don't think almost anyone in the league thinks like that. And I don't know Joe. I never even met him, but I've paid attention to him for a long time now, and I really get the sense that the difference between him making $36 million a year and $22 million a year doesn't really matter that much to him. He's a pretty simple guy, likes to play some video games. He's just not going to buy 12 sports cars and 3 houses. That's the sense I gather. But he does want to win Super Bowls. And he wants Jamar Chase catching the balls he throws. And he wants T. Higgins to stick around. And they're quoted in this story. And Higgins said, "We talk about staying together for the long run. Hopefully we can do that and get something negotiated where they can keep all 3 of us." And Jamar Chase says he knows what he has to do to win, and he wants to win. He's a winning guy. He's not a quarterback that's always interested in money and all that other stuff. He just wants to win. That's the big thing about Joe. Sounds very homerish for me to tell you that Joe Burrow's a little different. Oh, well, he's a Baton Rouge guy. You could think Joe Burrow hung the moon. He's a little different. And he's going, I believe, we'll see when the details come out. I could be dead wrong. I think he's going to take less money. And I don't know how you can defer stuff and convert roster bonuses and help the salary cap out and whatever. I predict that things look a little bit different than most other quarterbacks. If I'm dead wrong, I won't even be surprised because I just don't have a great handle on that kind of stuff. But it sounds like Joe Burrow is going to the negotiating table going, what can you do to keep Jamar and Higgins and this left tackle and these 2 corners and this guy? What do I need to do structure-wise with this money to make that work? And I just don't think many quarterbacks go to the table and do that. I don't think anyone in any walk does that very often. He's just a little different. It's something to see. All right, let's play some Take It or Leave It.
Let's starting off here, watching the NBA draft lottery. Take it or leave it.
Probably leave it. When the Pels are in the top 3, I might take a look at that. And I realize that this one matters because you're not taking Anthony Bennett with the first pick. You're taking a guy that we think is going to be one of the best players in the league pretty quickly. But for me, probably not going to happen. But I will say I don't think it's rigged. I just don't think you can have that as a possibility for your league to where people think that the integrity of the structure of the league is compromised by the executives. That doesn't work. So I think they'll do it legitimately, and I don't even know who has the best odds to get Wembanyama, but here we go.
I think it's either the Rockets or the Spurs, either one of those teams, I think.
Okay.
All right, moving on here. Doc Rivers was fired by the 76ers after their bowing out in the playoffs. The 61-year-old will coach again. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I think so. He can always do TV. He's got a pretty affable personality. I think a lot of people like Doc. I don't know if he's a good coach or not. They won with the Celtics and got back to the finals, and that was an unbelievable team. And then he did what he did in L.A., and it hadn't really worked out in Philly either. So, look, I don't know, but it feels like coaches turnover at such a ridiculous rate in that league. I mean, you're firing Nick Nurse and Budenholzer after they win titles like 2 seconds later.
Monty Williams.
You've got to get a new coach. So there will be opportunities. I'm sure he'll probably get another gig, but we'll see.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, Rivers is one of the most respected guys in the NBA, so I would be shocked, actually, if he doesn't pick up somewhere. Sam Burns will play the first and second rounds of the PGA Championship this week with Tom Kim and Abe Answer.
Okay.
Burns top 10 this week. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. Why not? I'll take it. I get the sense, I'm going to make some picks tomorrow for the PGA, but I get the sense that it's a bomber show up there at Oak Hills. You got to hit it a long way, and Sam does hit it a long way. So, obviously, I mean, I think you can eliminate a lot of the field that just doesn't hit it very far, like Abe Answer, one of the guys he's playing with, who doesn't hit it very far. I just don't think you can compete on these courses that are so long and so penal when you miss the fairway and you're not in wedge distance that it just, I think that Sam's got a real chance to get a top 10. Hopefully he can win, but we'll see.
I tend to agree with you. He's been playing relatively well, not in the last few tournaments, but he's got a good chance because he does hit it a long way.
Yep.
Last one here, greeting cards. Take it or leave
God. You're leading on this one. I got to leave it. I'm out. I'm out on greeting cards. I told my wife this yesterday. I didn't want to tell her on Mother's Day. I purchased a Mother's Day card last week. It was not one of the ones that you open up and it starts singing to you. It didn't have like a bunch of pop-outs or anything. There was nothing special about this card. It was a piece of paper folded with ink on it.
$5.
$8.02 when I checked out. That's the last one. I will write a handwritten note on this loose leaf paper before I buy another one of those. That is the most egregious thing. Everything costs too much. My buddy was at a hotel with his family last week, and he bought 2 cheeseburgers and 2 margaritas, and it was like $80 or something. That's ridiculous. Homeowners insurance and auto insurance is ridiculous. There are a lot of things that cost too much money. I have never in my life seen anything more egregious than charging $8.02 for a piece of paper folded over. Never again. I'm out. I'm out of the game. I've heard people say you got to go to the dollar store. I've heard people say all kinds of things. We're not even going to play the game anymore. Loose leaf paper in an envelope. Problem solved. And Alyssa agreed last night. I didn't want to tell her on Mother's Day when I gave her the card, but I said, look, here's the deal. Father's Day is coming up next month. You will not be purchasing me a greeting card. You're not getting a Father's Day card. If you want to go to Walgreens like I didn't get this card, go 2 aisles over, pick up 6 beers, and bring that back for Father's Day. Do not purchase a greeting card for $8. Absolutely ridiculous. Couldn't leave it anymore. I'm out of the game. It's over. All right, that's it for Tuesday edition. Come out and see us at Pluckers tonight, 8:30, sports trivia, cold beers, delicious chicken wings, fun. And you can win some gift cards while we're watching LSU and McNeese from over there at the box. Missed any of today's show? Catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, anywhere you get your podcasts. Talk to LSU seeding in the NCAA tournament. Chatted with Glenn West. Chatted with Wilson Alexander on quarterbacks. You can find that on my YouTube channel, Hunt on LSU. Then talk to Sharif on the NBA draft. Jimmy Ott's Game Time tonight, 6 to 8. Matt's going to drive you home on After Further Review next. See you tomorrow.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, anytime. Hunt Palmer. And After Further Review, Citizens Bank and Trust